You get into an elevator, a stranger steps in behind you, your shoulders tighten, your eyes drop to the floor numbers, your hand moves just slightly towards your phone. Nothing has happened. Nobody has said a word, but your body already thinks something might. You tell yourself this is silly. The stranger is probably just going to the ninth floor for a dentist appointment. But the real answer is far stranger. That flicker of unease is not silliness. It is a survival system, thousands of generations old, still running quietly in the background of your mind every single day. Your brain was not built for elevators. It was not built for cities, subways, or crowded sidewalks. It was built for small groups, bands of 20 to 50 people. Faces you had known since birth, voices you could recognize in the dark. In that world, a stranger was not a minor inconvenience. A stranger was a five-alarm event. Think about it. For most of human history, an unfamiliar face at the edge of camp meant one of a few things: a rival group scouting territory, a raider looking for food or women or weapons, someone carrying a disease your immune system had never met. Your ancestors who felt nothing when a stranger appeared, they took chances. They waited to see what would happen. Sometimes nothing happened, but sometimes it did, and the ones who paid the highest price didn't get to pass on their genes. Your ancestors who felt that small jolt of alertness, the tightened jaw, the raised heartbeat, the urge to watch closely, they survived more often. They had more children. Those children inherited the same jumpy, watchful nervous system. You are descended from the warriors, not the relaxed ones. Every uneasy glance you give a stranger on the street is a tiny echo of that ancient math. Anthropologists call this the in-group, out-group divide. It sounds clinical. It is not. It is one of the oldest and most powerful forces in human behavior. Here is the plain English version. Your brain sorts every person you meet into one of two mental folders: us or them. The us folder gets trust by default. The them folder gets suspicion by default. This sorting happens before you consciously decide anything. Studies using brain scans have shown that the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, lights up faster and stronger when people view unfamiliar faces compared to familiar ones. This happens in a fraction of a second, long before your rational mind has time to weigh in. For most of the 200,000 years modern humans have existed, this sorting system made perfect sense. Small hunter-gatherer bands rarely encountered outsiders. When they did, the encounter genuinely could turn violent. Territory, resources, and mates were all scarce. A new face at the border was rarely neutral news, so the brain evolved a shortcut. Unfamiliar equals unsafe until proven otherwise. Fast, automatic, no debate required. This shortcut lived comfortably inside the brain for almost the entire span of human existence. Then, in the blink of an evolutionary eye, everything changed. About 12,000 years ago, agriculture arrived. People stopped wandering and started settling. Villages grew into towns. Towns grew into cities. Suddenly, a single day could bring a person into contact with hundreds of unfamiliar faces. Your ancient alarm system did not get the memo. It kept firing exactly the way it always had. One stranger, one spike of suspicion. Multiply that by every person on a crowded train platform, and you get the low-grade tension so many people feel in cities without ever quite knowing why. There is a term for this mismatch. Researchers call it evolutionary mismatch, when a trait that once solved a real problem gets dropped into an environment it was never designed for. Your fear of strangers is not broken. It is simply outdated software running on modern hardware. Here is where it gets strange. The same system that makes you wary of strangers also makes you fiercely loyal to your own group. These are not two separate traits. They are two sides of the exact same coin. Psychologists have shown again and again that people will favor their own group almost instantly, even when the group is formed for no reason at all. In classic experiments, researchers randomly split people into teams using something as meaningless as a coin flip. Within minutes, people began favoring their own randomly assigned teammates and treating the other team with more suspicion. Nothing about the other team had changed, only the label had changed, and that was enough to flip the switch. This tells you something uncomfortable. Your brain does not need a real threat to activate stranger danger. It only needs a boundary. Us and them, in and out. That boundary can be a tribe, a nationality, a sports jersey, or a coin flip in a psychology lab. The twist is this: the very same wiring that once protected your ancestors from genuine outside threats is the same wiring that fuels modern prejudice, tribalism, and knee-jerk distrust of anyone who looks, speaks, or dresses differently. The mechanism never cared about fairness. It only cared about survival odds, calculated in a world that no longer exists. Look at your own life, and you will see this ancient wiring everywhere, disguised in modern clothing. You trust a coworker you have known for years more than a stranger with better qualifications. You feel a flicker of comfort when you hear someone speak with your accent in a foreign country. You relax slightly around people who dress, eat, or worship the way you do, and tense slightly around people who don't. None of this makes you a bad person. It makes you a human with an old brain living in a new world. But understanding the mechanism gives you something powerful: choice. Once you know that your suspicion of a stranger is often a reflex rather than a reasoned judgment, you can pause before acting on it. You can notice the jolt, name it for what it is, and decide whether it deserves your trust or not, instead of letting a 200,000-year-old alarm system make the decision for you. Some of the most connected, successful communities in history figured this out long before modern psychology gave it a name. Trade routes, immigrant neighborhoods, multicultural cities, all of them thrived by finding ways to shrink the them folder and grow the yes folder. Shared meals, shared rituals, shared stories. Every one of these is a technology for tricking an ancient brain into feeling safe with new faces. So next time you step into an elevator and a stranger steps in behind you and your shoulders tighten just slightly, remember that feeling didn't start with you. It started around a fire tens of thousands of years ago with people who survived by watching the tree line a little too closely. You're not being paranoid, you're being ancient.